Module 2, Building 21st Century Skills. During this particular module, we're going to be looking at what teaching looks like in the 21st century and therefore defining what the learning should look like. We're also going to be taking a look at different web tools and aligning them to the different 21st century skills with the idea that you're going to create your own toolkit of resources that will tie into the different skills that you've identified in Module 1. Remember, you created a listing of 4 critical skills plus your mashup for a total of 5. And so then what you're going to do at the end of Module 2 is to create that toolkit of resources that align web tools directly to those skills that you identified as being critical, relevant 21st century skills. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to cover in Module 2. So the very first thing you're going to do is take a look at this video on Cameron. And notice that you only have to watch from 2:55, so 2 minutes 55 seconds through 4:27. Once you've completed watching that section of that video, you're going to address the following 3 questions. What is the lesson about? What would you do differently so that all students could target 21st century skills? And what are other examples of teachers missing opportunities to allow students to practice those skills? Once you've finished watching it and you've reflected on those 3 questions, you can then watch the video reflection, which is basically me going back over those 3 different questions with you in that particular video. I also show you examples of how we can miss opportunities and how you can maximize the use of some tools to actually create those opportunities. And that'll make sense once you watch this video reflection. Once you're done watching that video reflection, what I've provided here for you are different projects that teachers have done where they have allowed their students to cover content while also targeting and building 21st century skills. So basically, kids have had opportunities in these different projects that I've given you as examples. The kids have had opportunities to be able to put those skills into practice. And the reason why I'm sharing these with you is to kind of give you ideas of what others are out there doing so that kids can actually cover content and also collaborate and network and communicate and really, again, just target those different skills that we've been talking about. So there's several different examples in here. I've put 4 in here, some of which have videos, others have links and so forth. So definitely take a look at these, at least, the brief description and then some of those videos so you can get an idea of what these are about. I'm going to share with you the one about Harris Burdick Project. This was a writing project that these teachers took on as an initiative to provide students opportunities to not only to be able to write creatively, but of course also target basics of writing like grammar and structure of a writing piece. And then also be able to target 21st century skills. In fact, in the process, students actually learned how to globally collaborate, which wasn't something they anticipated they'd be working on as a skill given the assignment was a writing project. But because they had to collaborate with people from all over the world, it gave them that opportunity. So let's take a quick look at this one. So this here, I just took us to the link that has all the Burdick pictures. So this is a book full of pictures. And students from all over the world were able to pick which pictures they wanted to work on. And based on the pictures they chose, they were then lumped with other kids from all over the world. So a student maybe from Japan, a student from maybe Missouri, another student from Texas, or from wherever they came, they were then lumped together to write a story based off of the picture that they selected. When they wrote their stories, they had to use a Google Doc, which was shared between all of those students that had picked that picture. And together, collaboratively, they wrote their story about that picture. Here's another link to their wiki that has some pictures here. You can see the kids are actually Skyping with other kids in other classes from all over the world. And you can see the girl here next to him is actually on the Google Doc where they're writing. And so kids had to meet virtually, and then they had to also write independently, but they're collaborating on that document, so they actually had to work together on those. And here's another screenshot of them actually getting together and Skyping and writing in their Google Docs. What they learned was that they couldn't always get a hold of each other at the same times, because sometimes some kids on the other side of the world were asleep while kids over here in the States were awake at school working. And so they couldn't always get a hold of each other, and so they had to work around that. What ended up happening was that some kids just wrote the whole thing themselves, and then the other kid that was maybe from like Japan or from wherever else that was collaborating with them got upset and was like, hey, they can't write the whole thing. And so they would delete stuff and then rewrite it, and then the other kid would get mad. And so they had to actually stop. The teachers had to teach the kids a lesson on what it meant to collaborate in global space. And so kids got to really explore this environment by having been put into it, and have to learn how to communicate and collaborate in these virtual spaces when in situations like that they were in, where you can't always get a hold of the person that you need to. How are you going to encounter and how are you going to handle those kinds of situations? And so the kids were able to learn from this experience and really target a lot of additional skills beyond the content that they were actually covering in class. So this is one of many examples that are out there, and like I said, I've included 4 different examples, and all the links to everything I just showed you plus so much more is available here for all the 4 different projects that I've given you as examples. I'm sure everyone has an example they've heard of or that they know that their school is doing that they could probably add to this list. But this at least gives us a good idea of what is it that teachers are doing, that schools are doing to help students be able to have opportunities to master these different skills. So once you've reviewed those 4 different projects, you're going to come down here to the section called Aligning Web Applications to Relevant 21st Century Skills. I've included the TED Talk on How Schools Kill Creativity by Ken Robinson. You're not required to watch it, but I just wanted to include it on there, especially as we first address creativity and innovation. In this particular section, all I've done is outlined a skill and then given you a couple of resources that would help. If you utilize these particular web tools, it would help give your students opportunities to be able to master these particular skills. So creativity, innovation can be targeted by utilizing these skills that are listed here. Communication and collaboration could be targeted by utilizing the different web tools that are provided here, etc. So every section has web tools that are aligned to these different tools. So I've given you plenty and several different examples here to kind of get you started. The idea, though, is that you're going to then utilize your knowledge of the skills and the ones that you've narrowed down, and then create your own database. Okay, so that's kind of what you're doing here in this particular section. So let me come all the way back up to the top to get to your assignment. So in Module 1, you narrowed down a listing of 17 different skills down to only 4 plus a mashup. So really you have 5. So you narrowed down 17 skills down to just 5. What I'm asking is that you create or that you align a web tool to each of those 5 skills. And once you figure it out, once you say, let's say one of your skills was critical thinking, well, you have to find a web tool that would allow your students to practice that skill. So let's say critical thinking, well, what would allow me to target critical thinking? Well, in one of my examples that I shared with you was the Tinkerball. Well, Tinkerball definitely allows students to have to critically think, because you need to figure out what piece goes where, which goes first, which goes second, etc. So let me pull it up again here. So if I'm thinking I want a web tool that's going to help my students have to critically think about what they're doing, then what comes to my mind is Tinkerball. Because when you actually come in and play this particular interactive, you have to figure out what pieces go together in order for the ball to fall into the cup. And so I have to troubleshoot, and I have to figure out, okay, what piece would I put first? What would happen if I have this piece? Will the ball go through? It comes out. Then what do I need to put next? So I'm having to critically think about aligning and how I'm aligning these different tools. So then I would then submit that as one of my resources. So in creating my database, I would say, well, to target critical thinking, I would use Tinkerball. Once I'm ready to submit 5 different web tools to each of my 5 different skills that I've defined, then I'm going to submit to this particular form here. So you click on this link, and it'll take you to this particular form where you will first give me your full name, because this is the only way I can give you credit for this assignment. you're going to list the name of the tool. So let's say I was putting my name in here. And then I'm going to list the name of the tool, so Tinkerbell. And then the URL, so I'd have to go back to Tinkerbell and find the actual URL for that particular web tool. So I'm going to copy and bring that over here and then paste it right in here. And then I have to address these following questions. How will the user interact or use this particular tool? I want you to actually identify the role of the student in relation to how they're actually using the tool, because sometimes we'll select a tool where the student really isn't interacting so much with the web tool. In other words, things just happen on their own. Perhaps it's a simulation, it's a video. That doesn't help the student put to practice the skills. So we need to see how the student is actually using the tool. So I need to identify that. And lastly here, I'm saying what skill is the learner practicing. And so here I would actually say critical thinking. Now, I would also include problem solving, because they are actually targeting that skill as well. And you can include any other skills that you feel they would be utilizing. The last thing on this list here is really just optional. It says any additional information here that you might add to help a teacher implement the use of that tool that you're talking about. So perhaps if you need to explain something, if a teacher were reading your submission and they saw, okay, great, I could use Tinkerbell to target critical thinking, and this is how the student is going to interact with it, but how do you use it? Or what do I need to know specific to use this as an activity in my classroom? So please do, in the optional section, add any additional information that might help a teacher be able to implement the use of that tool to target the skill that you are identifying here. Once you've completed this, you're going to hit on the submit button and it'll submit your submission. So that would be one of your total 5. Once you've completed that, it will enter into a database that I have, and so I'll be able to identify you by your name, because it'll give me your name if you've entered it in the name field, and I'll be able to check you off for that assignment. But what we're going to end up with is this database that has all these really great ideas. And so on Module 2, you'll notice that at the very top, you have the form to submit your tools, and below that it says browse the tools submitted by your peers. You can go to this spreadsheet to see what have others submitted, to also get ideas, and to maybe be able to expand on those ideas in case you decide to use them. So it's going to serve 2 purposes. One, to give you an idea of what others submitted to help you kind of better understand what you need to submit for your assignment, and also ideas for you to share with other teachers so that they can also use this as assignments or activities that they could do in their classroom. So that is the activity that you are to complete and turn in for Module 2. If you have any questions or cannot access any of these links or any of the videos, please don't hesitate to contact me. Once you've completed those, that completes Module 2.